Welcome, everyone. Welcome, or welcome back. It's a potty marathon, it's a workshop marathon today. We are hosting a 24-hour learning festival today to celebrate the launch of Butter Scenes on Product Hunt. You don't hear me? You can't hear Brett? Just let me quickly wheel. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right. So, Brett, you will probably need to check your volume maybe. All right, Scene in Scenes is this epic 24-hour festival where gather 40 top experts in facilitation, community building, learning, collaboration, innovation, startups, and we are learning around the clock. We're celebrating the launch of our Butter Baby product, Butter Scenes. So we're gonna get a taste of that. We launch on Product Hunt. The link's in the chat if you want to show some love. My name is Anne Maria, and I will be your co-pilot today. We are recording the sessions, and so if you are feeling more comfortable off the camera, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we'd love to see smiley faces and get the party started. For the next hour, we are hosted by Will. Rowe, I haven't even asked you if that's your correct pronunciation, so I apologize if I'm messing this up, Will. Rovi?
Rowe's good.
Rowe. All right. Founder and CEO of Protein, a business that helps businesses grow. Over the past 10 years, Protein has built a global community of creative, diverse, and influential voices who they work with to keep the likes of Nike, Diageo, and Sonos relevant. And we're going to hear all about that community and how Will looks at community today. I'll pop the link of Protein in the chat if you're curious to hear more about them and check out their work. And I'll kill the music here, Will, and the floor is yours. Take it away. Thank you so much for hosting us in the next hour.
Yeah, amazing. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join this session. I hope you find it insightful, useful, mildly entertaining. Just wanted to check everybody is on the scenes link, which Anna's shared in the chat. Thank you very much. Caveat is the first time we're doing this, so fingers crossed, everything goes as smoothly as we hope. But today I'm going to take you through a workshop that we've done a load of times. It's fundamental to our philosophy as a business, our methodology as an agency, and it's something, as I said, we hope that you guys will find relevant and interesting. So let's crack on. The structure for today is this. I'm going to do a few intros. I want to hear from you guys. Always good to know who's in the room. I'm going to set some context as to where, why, how this piece of work came together. I'm going to share some truths. These are very much some insights, some learnings that we found through creating this project. And then there's some takeaways. And we've got a few different variations of the takeaways, which I hope will be relevant to as many folks here in the room. We've got an hour, well, we've got under an hour now, so hopefully we can get through it all. So let's start with some intros. If you can, I don't know if you guys used this before, but if you could, please drop a pin on the map. I think you can zoom in on the map. Is that right, Anna? I'm not sure. Drop a pin on the map as to where you are, just so we can get a bit of geolocation. Would be amazing. I'm going to do mine as well. I'm down in the countryside, down here. And then there's also a little prompt to add your city, just so we can actually properly geolocate everyone. Well, that's cool. Some North America, Australia. Wait, what time is it there? Who's That's the middle of the night, no? um, uh, cool. Hope you guys are navigating your way around this. Hey, I like this feature, Anna. I'm gonna definitely use this again.
Really
Um,
cool.
Cape Town, very good. Love that. Indonesia. Cool. All right. Love that. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. And if you could just drop in, what you're up to at the moment. And I think this very much helps sort of frame, direct, contextualize some of the anecdotes we're doing. So please do click on one of these five. Um, and yeah, just take a moment just to select which answer is most relevant for you. Uh, I put the one at the bottom for those who are still working it out because I mean, that's the one I would actually click on if I'm honest. I'm actually still working it out. But yeah, please take a moment to click on which of these boxes is most relevant for you. Great. Seeing that's working. Cool. Bit of a mixture. Always good to see. How do you show the results, Anna? Or are your results are in that screen?
So if once we cast a vote, we can already see the results, and potentially you as a facilitator, you will have to either vote yourself or click the skip button at the bottom if you see that in order
Okay.
to see the results.
Ah, cool, great.
Then I think you can close the poll and then
All
it doesn't
right, love
accept
that.
any more. Yes, there we go.
22 out of 23 answered. All right, in the poll. Okay, another good feature. All right, we're learning, guys. This is great. We're all learning together. All right, great. So just to set some context, we is that on your screen, Anna? Sorry, those little ticks and those
Yes.
lines.
So I do you see those or no?
Mhm. I can see those.
You can?
I can, yeah.
Okay, that's an annotation feature. We don't see that as participants, so it must be on your screen somehow by
Mm,
accident that you'll have to
okay, all
clean.
right, cool. Sorry, I did caveat this was a new technology, so let's crack on. All right.
It's
So
new
just to
for
give some
everyone,
context
yes.
about who we are, what we do. We're called Protein. We're effectively three different businesses. We're an agency business based in London and Amsterdam. We do a lot of work for a bunch of the big brands, really helping them to make better decisions with what's going on in the world around them. We also run a studios business, which is a co-working and event space in Shoreditch and in Tisbury, which is in the countryside. And our main platform is protein.xyz, which is our main content hub and event platform. So there's a few different components to what we do, but all connected and all relevant in terms of the different interconnected communities. And yeah, as mentioned, just to provide a sort of a bit further depth in terms of the context, we as an organization do a lot of our own research. It's something that we've done for, 15 plus years. And more recently, we created a series of reports called Dirty Words. Dirty words are words that are so overused, they've lost all meaning. We've done four. The first one was exclusivity in 2018. The next was influence in 2021, ownership in 2022, and then the more recent one was community in 2023, which is the basis. That report is the basis of this workshop. Um, it was really fun. We it was pretty meta. We created this community report with our community, in our community, about our community. There was a lot of community chat. This is a bit of a screenshot. You'll notice some Butter screenshots in here. Big fans of Butter. Mirror boards, Discords, loads of different technologies. And that was core to our approach in terms of being genuine, meaningful, authentic in terms of actually the co-creation process. Just to sort of go into that a little bit further, we were exploring with a lot of different Web3 technologies at the time. So we also had fractional ownerships, recognizing all the different contributors, which were then correlated to sort of fractional revenues. So when we sold the report, those different percentages based on the different contributors actually then converted actually into revenues for them. It was a lot, I'm not going to lie, but we did it and it was hugely successful. This is a bit of a screenshot of some of the slides, which was designed by Manuel Dillon in New York, and he had completely over-delivered. Absolutely stunning. Yeah, a key response. Just a question about Web3. Web3 is sort of the next generation of the internet. Brief history, Web 1 was very much about connecting documents together. Semantic web, it was called. Web 2 is sort of very much the social web, so Facebook and sort of the social layers. And Web 3 is very much about the transactional internet, which is basically where, and I'm not going to derail into what is blockchain, what is crypto, but fundamentally, if you think about it through a lens of transactional internet rather than social internet or sort of information internet. Hope that answers your question. That's a whole nother workshop, by the way, which we have got. But out of that process of collaboratively creating our community report with our community, we set these intentions, even that exercise was incredible, just in terms of alignment of values, alignment of intent of direction, and as I will get onto, these are sort of fundamentals in terms of nurturing that healthy community. So just quickly covering these. The first was about creating tangible advice resources for building healthy communities. That's what this workshop is. Check. 2, to suggest a new evolving definition of community that prioritizes belonging and co-ownership. And then 3, to create a space for members to share mutual perspectives and learning between different communities. And this is actually what we're now working on as a result of it in terms of building out new communities. So why is community a dirty word? There's a bunch of different reasons. It's very used, and as I've just mentioned, as far as we're concerned, overused. It's been appropriated. There's sort of extractive, very much sort of moving on from this sort of hyper individualism, transactional, inauthentic. There's a load of just frictions that are very much sort of challenging what certainly we believe is a true meaning of community. And with that, it wouldn't be true if there weren't some decent memes that support it, which I highly recommend you digging into because they're also sort of quite entertaining. But first exercise, or actually second exercise now, I would love you, if you could, to share your description of what community means to you. So I'm hoping this works. If you go into the scenes, click on the screen, fill out your sticky, then we can see what everybody's thinking. I think I can set a timer. I'm going to give you 3 minutes because I want to keep this impulsive. What's the first word that comes to mind when you think community? And also think about not necessarily online communities. This could be local communities. It could be your neighborhood communities. But yeah, feel free to drop in the first
You can
word,
also
one
drag and
word.
drop, move them around if they
There's a
land
few
on
there.
someone else's.
There's a few that are using more than one word. That's fine. I'm not that strict. Ooh, these are good. Belonging, I love that. Mutual, generosity, lead, yes. Yeah, I like this. Oh, that's great. Any more for any more? People pondering, try not to think about it too much. We'd love to hear some instinctive thoughts, results as to what community means to you. Expensive. Love that. Connection. Okay, great. Maybe we don't need the 3 minutes. I was a bit generous there. All right. Any more for any more? Can we move those there? Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, well, this is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Fun, yes, we're getting onto the fun. Don't worry about that. Key ingredient for healthy and happy community is a sense of fun. Um, Brett, I'm seeing your comment. I, I I sympathize and fully agree in terms of community means survival in the face of Helen, for sure. Um, okay, great. Let's keep moving. Well, thank you for sharing that. Really informative. And I think, validating. So we asked that same question to our community with our hundreds of responses. We then put through the magic of ChatGPT, and this is what it summarized. Um, Identity is a key piece in terms of, you know, being defined, or individuals being defined by the community that they are contribute to or actually being part of. Families and homes also a key piece of that in terms of the actual physical, location of your community. Supportive connections, which I think we've seen, a couple of notes, post-it notes before. Collaboration exchange, 100% in terms of mutual interests. Purpose and principles, having that common goal, shared purpose is a vital beginning foundation of creating community. And safety and belonging. You want to be in a place that you feel comfortable, you feel safe, that you feel you can share your interests without being too judged. So that was sort of our community's response. So coming into some of the truths from this, um, this was if I'm honest, a quite unexpected, but a significant one. And this is very much recognizing the role of technology. And I appreciate we're on a workshop for a technology platform. um, but equally recognizing the role of technology. And as written along the top here, the restorative concept of community centers around the reciprocal relationship between people, their shared goals and needs, and where technology is in service of, but not driving that. So, what does that mean? That means if you are running a community, a part of a community, is the community serving your platform or is your platform serving your community? I'm really recognizing the roles of these tech platforms, which now are incredibly powerful, on some cases, incredibly invasive, and also, and I don't want to generalize too much, not secure. So it's really asking that question in terms of the platform, and this is very much aimed at more sort of online communities rather than physical communities. I mean, physical communities should all be built around a pub, as far as I'm concerned. Online communities should, it's really recognizing the role of technology in terms of how it's facilitating, how it's nurturing, and basically just not getting in the way. So a key learning, which is something we adopted ourselves and took the decision to close our Discord. We were running our community within Discord, and I don't know if anybody has any experience in Discord, but it's not great. It's very inaccessible, it's very overwhelming, and fundamentally was not helping us manage our community. So we closed it. We've just launched on a new platform called Discourse, which is a very simple, basically forum software that we are much happier with, our community is much happier with, because actually the functionality and the simplicity of it makes it a lot more usable and a lot more friendly. Cool. And then there's also a key piece about language, and this is also incredibly important. Community caretakers need to be highly valued and better resourced. This is a role or a function that needs to be taken seriously. So there's a sort of definitely a shift from some terminologies around leadership towards terminologies of sort of instigator, gardener, nurturer, just some softer language as to sort of the roles of those who might be sort of directing, setting trajectories, rather than just being like, I'm the CEO, right? This is my thing. It's definitely a lot flatter and a lot more mutual in terms of some of that approach. And also, as I mentioned earlier, setting that intentionality as we did for our community. Recognizing, members need time to replenish, participate on their own frequency, and, equally recognizing those different contributions. And there's a great quote here on the bottom left from Rafa from Folklore. And if you're not aware about Folklore, it's an incredible project that runs out of Berlin that Rafa set up. And he says you need different participation pathways to actually meaningfully contribute to your community. If you only have one, that's problematic. And if the only one that you can have becomes a member in one way and you have to pay for it, then I would challenge you. So it is equally recognizing on the overall intentions, multiple routes in, multiple ways to work together. And as mentioned here, multiple different sort of frequencies in terms of people are busy, people have other commitments. So it's giving them options to contribute in their own way and in their own time. And then also sort of this idea about playing and fun, which was one of the post-it notes earlier. And Natalie, who's a member of our community, she's awesome. She goes on to say that in my culture, you have to be this thing or sorry, I can't read today. To be this one thing your whole entire life. And that is so boring. The metaverse and people that I'm with, they're like, you can be all of these things. You can do all of these things and we'll help you. So it's very much sort of recognizing these different layers, different identities, being free just to be yourself and to the fullest. So it is leaning into that sort of playful mindset, coming back to the creating a safe space, that people can really explore some new approaches, new identities, and also with that, keeping it fun and lighthearted. Touched on this earlier in terms of some of your post-it notes, but mutual beneficial exchanges are incredibly important, and this also goes beyond financial exchanges. This isn't about money changing hands. This is about value changing hands. And value can be defined in many different ways, just in terms of just introductions, nice ideas, actually critical, constructive feedback. So there's multiple different ways of actually thinking about that. And Richard Bartlett, also another member of our community, incredibly smart thinker on some of these topics. A community is defined by its boundaries. Then within those bounded space, there's a spirit of reciprocity and generosity, and it's not about counting. So, once you're in and you're creating that environment, it's equally sort of recognizing that mutual interest, that mutual goals, and ensuring that it's mutually beneficial. Love this quote from Ellie. Index Space is it's a co-working space in New York where we actually launched a version of this report. We ran this workshop actually with their members, and it really equally recognizing the online to the offline. And Ellie sums this up really nicely with digital space is very good for discovery, whereas the physical space is very good for commitment. So, if you very much think about your own behavior, some of your own activities, and very much coming back to platforms and physical spaces, co-working spaces being a platform that they all have serve their own purposes, but ultimately it's equally recognizing when you enter those spaces or you show up in those spaces, what are you expecting from it? What can you contribute, and actually what you can look to actually learn or benefit from in return. So next exercise, I hope you guys are all still there. From those truths I just covered, would love to take a moment to share which of these truths resonate with you the most. Again, grab a sticky. This one maybe to have a little moment, maybe a little reflection of some of the points that I covered. And I appreciate I covered them quite quickly, and there were quite a few. But of the ones that you've seen, or some of the ones that we haven't covered that you have experienced, would love if you could take a moment to share, some of the truths that you might have experienced in being part of a community, or if you are a community operator, community builder, some of the experiences that you've had building and running your own communities. I'll put a few minutes on the clock and I will let you guys fill out some post-its. Okay, there we go. We got some music, Anna. Is that a feature within this, or is this a manual
It's not a
function?
feature, and I will have to
Request
see,
coming from
yes, how
people.
I. I'm gonna give this a go and see if it takes away the screen or what does it do? Yes,
Yeah, it
it
takes it
takes
away.
away the screen, but that's okay because I bring it back in a second as well.
Someone is asking, add note has disappeared, so I can't add. Joanna, I think if you just click anywhere on the screen, then a note should appear. I'm not sure about what's going on there then. Yeah, Vito, I feel you on that one. It's definitely not always champagnes and roses. I haven't heard that analogy of bricks and black eyes though, so I'd definitely want to hear more about whatever the source of that one is. Cool relationships. Yeah, these are great guys. Keep them coming in. So we're talking about what are these truths? You know, what are these fundamental beliefs, needs, interests that you've had experience of, or being part of a community, or you know, running your own. Yeah, I'm just going to read through a few of these. People participating at their own race, Maxine, 100%. It's a key piece to recognize, as I said, that you know people are busy. You know, these aren't members of staff. You know, they're not on the payroll. They're very much showing up on their own time. You know, in their own way. So it is definitely sort of recognizing that. Um, yeah, Endro, sandbox, most missed opportunities. 100% agree with that. Intentionally over frequency, Karen, 100%. Um, who else we got here? Um, Anush, supporting people in how much they can contribute. Yeah, for sure. Um, Sarah says there's a lot you can exchange rather than money, feedback, support, share permissions, ideas. Yeah, definitely. Um, great. Would anybody like to unmute and maybe dig into one of their or share more one of their notes? No worries if not, but I'm always curious to hear you guys speak. Who have we got here?
I really liked the note that you had about defining a community by its boundaries. I'm building a community now, and on the one hand, it's kind of open, and that's introduces a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have met, and that's cool. But I do find myself struggling to know how to add value to the community members because I haven't said, okay, this is for some people, but others might not find value in it and draw those boundaries.
Hmm. Have you been sort of open and intentional on those points in terms of how it's been communicated or how people have found you?
So far. So I know that's, part of the attraction is there's this ability to meet people you wouldn't otherwise have. It's a little bit like by
Hmm.
design, meet people outside of your echo chamber. So I struggle with like what kind of boundaries to put up. And I think the way I'm going about that is as I talk and get to know more people in the community, I see they actually do have a lot in common, even though they were attracted to like meeting totally different people. They're in a self-selected way, they have a lot of overlap, and maybe that's where I'll start forming boundaries as the group gets bigger, so it feels less like a hodgepodge, but still retains that sense of you're escaping your echo chamber in the comfort
Mhm.
of a community.
Yeah, no, for sure. And um, yo, we are human after all, okay? So, and it's something that I don't forget. I'm sort of definitely reminded of, and certainly when in early stages, sort of the foundational stages of sort of community building, there is that excitement and there is that kind of buzz. But equally, there will be that sort of drop off as your people, settle in, and that really sort of sets the pace, sets the cadence of sort of interaction. There's a lot of talk about rhythms and rituals, just to ensure those sort of fundamentals are there. And then there's also a lot of talk about sort of 1990, which is a very maybe somewhat oversimplified sort of split in terms of a 1% being sort of core team, sort of running it, sort of a 9% being sort of really active contributors, and then a 90 being sort of a bit kind of lurky, not in a bad way, obviously, but passive. Um, and that's also fine, by the way. So I think it's just also just recognizing some of these different mechanics, models, and also metrics, just in terms of actually, is this working? Because, it's not actually that well documented in terms of what a healthy community looks like in numbers. Anyway, hope that was helpful.
Thank
So,
you. Well, I've
yeah,
never heard 1990, and that's very validating and true to the experience of a new community. So that was great. Thank you.
yeah, cool. Um, I'm gonna crack on, just conscious of time, but I see Joanna, you got your hand up. Is that for a question or is that for your tech?
It's just a comment, really. It's only just a comment about the champagne and roses thing, and to reflect on how I'm not sure about the bricks and the black eyes, but, but
Oh, I
they're
don't know
very
about
good.
that
But
actually.
somewhere,
Good point.
somewhere in between those, where what I mean is the difficult, how rich difficult conversations can be, and to run towards them rather than away from them, because that's where the learning is, and
Yeah,
to find where those rough bits are, because that's the richest place. If it's all champagne and roses, you're not learning anything.
100%.
Yeah.
And that I fully subscribe to.
Mm.
Um, Actually, I'm gonna challenge Vito to unmute or put in the chat where the bricks and black eyes comes from, because that definitely is not in a UK vocabulary. But whilst we
Be
sort of do that,
happy to share, Will, if you got 30
oh,
seconds.
there we go. That's
Even
great
though
when you
it's
enter the chat.
4:35 a.m. My time here, I'll give it a go.
Okay, go on
Uh,
then.
I worked overseas for a couple of years in the Middle East region,
Yeah.
and part of my brief there was to build new communities where I was working, and in some cases, that intent was not well received, and that's all I meant by the bricks and black eyes comments. Just a bit of a poke at that, nothing more. So don't take it literally.
All right. No, I love that. That explains a lot. Thank you very much, Vito. And Joanna, just coming back to your point, we have had and have a section, an area within our community that is called Tough Questions. Um, and granted, our community is a decentralized research community, so we have a bunch of strategists, creative researchers, sort of insight folks, and they are inherently curious. I mean, they're researchers, and we sort of intentionally created this space for those, big, hairy, like. I mean, let's talk about them, man. Let's get them out. Let's like, what is your view on it? And it was the most active, most informative area within our community, and has really helped to shape a lot of, well, not a lot, it helped to shape a number of different pieces of research that we've actually put out in the world. So yes, 100% recognize the importance of that. Cool. Right, I'm going to crack on. So we went from timeless truths to some critical truths. And again, we sort of covered some of these already, which is always great to see in terms of some of your guys' comments. But communities of all types need to find balance and clarity within that flexibility. So it's about motivating participation through having those clear goals and intentions and also that feedback, but equally making sure you adapt and grow around the members alongside their evolving needs and responses to internal and external factors, which I think we've already covered. Transparency, incredibly important. And with that, sort of around the use of exchanges of resources, very much is a fundamental for a healthy community. John here, Coffee, summarized it very nicely, just in terms of like, again, setting that intention that, you know, people don't come here to be a customer of a business. I don't want to be here to run a business that isn't what we came, you know, he came for. So an index I mentioned earlier, they have an amazing monthly, I guess it's equivalent of like a board meeting, but it's not a board meeting because it's a community space where they sit everybody down, they share their financials, you know, how much money they made that month, you know, what the costs are, you know, as you would being a member, you know, of the business. And, you know, they don't need to do that. Not everybody is interested in that, but, you know, to go into that level of even financial transparency within a community, creates so many different layers of trust, you know, creating different layers of, you know, also input and contribution and thought as to sort of, wow, if we're spending this much for this, maybe we should, you know, do it different ways. So again, always thinking about that level in terms of building trust, because ultimately communities are all human. Yeah, is a fundamental piece. Yeah, this is equally important, and appreciate the fact that maybe some of you are at the beginning of your community journeys, but you know, we also should recognize the offboarding journeys, because these communities, you know, it might not be right for everybody, and it's recognizing that, it's appreciating that, and I touched on it earlier in terms of, you know, what expected percentage of contributions are. Downtime, conflict resolution, offboarding, and exiting are all inevitable parts of the community ecosystems. And Rafa again talks a lot about the right to exit, and I think we should be making exit as easy as possible. So, you know, if you're just not feeling it, you're just not like vibing it, and rather than throwing some bricks and getting black eyes, Vito's going, you know, it's just like, guys, this is not me, man. I'm out. And you know, I don't know what your general vibe is if you're at a party and you want to leave, whether you do the Irish exit. I shouldn't say that. Why is it called the Irish exit? When you just sort of like leave without saying goodbye, or whether it's a bit like, guys, the music's not great, these cocktails are really weak, and I mean, whatever your reason is, but I'm making it up. But this idea of, you know, if you're bringing people together around a mission, and you know, there might be some misunderstanding or misalignment, and this is where the tough questions come in, you know, it's creating that safe space for that discussion to evolve. So next exercise, is, you know, it starts getting a bit more prickly now. You know, have you ever left the community? And if so, why? So please do same format. I'll put a couple more minutes on the clock. Grab a note, drop in some anecdotes. Feel free to stay anonymous if you need to, but really keen to, as I said, to recognize the importance of, you know, leaving communities rather than necessarily joining them. And, you know, that might also, you know, keep the door open, because the way that experience was managed, or, you know, how they were, different members were handled, the relationship was handled, you know, it still keeps that door open for the future. So again, a couple of minutes, feel free to just drop a few notes in, and we will take it from there. Yeah, great to see some of these coming in. Yeah, no longer relevant for sure. Lack of conflict resolution, indeed. Physical space, confusing platform, Cassie. Yeah, Billy, Joanna as well, certainly on a volunteering side. These are great guys. Yeah, Jennifer, definitely. And that was key feedback from us as well in terms of Discord was a regular feedback in terms of the actual platform experience, which drove us to actually, yeah, switch it off and find something that people would actually want to use. What else we got in here? Yeah, yeah, George, 100% true here. The nature of the community is dissipative. That means if it's meant to be leaving once me needs once your needs are fulfilled. And and that's also fine, right? If you're coming together or community is formed around a particular campaign, a particular objective, and once that objective is complete, that's also fine, right? Communities maybe could, maybe should, have finite lifespans, and especially coming way back to the beginning in terms of setting those intentions. And again, depending on how specific you get with those intentions, but that is also a great achievement. That if that initial intention was to achieve what it is you wanted to achieve, and then that's done, it's like, okay, guys, well, well done, high fives. We did it. So yeah, equally important. What else we got? Platform not enriching, can commit to physical space. Yeah. Lack of resources, Anna, yeah, for sure. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Respects, yeah, it is definitely a human relationship. It's all based on human relationships. So if that is questionable or misunderstood or definitely not mutual, then that is also a fundamental, obvious reason to not hang around. Great. Okay. Let's keep going. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. I'm going to dig into these properly, I think, afterwards, because they're really rich. Okay. Final set of truths are emergent truths. So these are in the form of some case studies of predominantly brand. Well, they're not brand, they're a bit of a mixture. So hopefully there will be at least one that is relevant or close to what you guys are thinking about working on or currently part of. So they're all framed sort of in terms of sort of a shift, in terms of from definitions of sort of consumers and user groups to words that are banned words in our community, to words that are a bit more like ecosystems of influence. So recognizing mutual stakeholders, and very much the dynamics and the relationships that come from them. This is a project for Nike called Dot Swoosh. It was a bit of a humble brag. We were actually led all the community strategy for this when it first launched a couple of years back. And it was a really incredible project on numerous levels. One, for a company of Nike's size to be asking questions to a company of our size as to sort of how to launch a community was a pretty empowering place to be. And by the way, this wasn't a new relationship. We've got a deep relationship with Nike, so it wasn't sort of completely out of the blue. But it really did pose a number of really interesting, too small, like fascinating sort of challenges as to sort of how big brands can really adopt this sort of shift in mindset, which fundamentally is a shift of power and control. Because if you're thinking about building community, creating level playing fields, inviting people in, ultimately this is about control, which brands, especially big brands, especially big brands like Nike, you know, somewhat understandably have a bit of a challenge with. However, we worked it out. We created basically a space, a safe space within the Nike ecosystem that still very much stayed within their sort of guardrails in terms of Nike ID and that sort of their technology, but did create that environment for digital creatives, which fundamentally is what this project's all about. It's about creating digital goods. And has been hugely successful. We're no longer involved now, but in terms of those 8 months that we worked on it was, really proud of the work that came through it. Another example here in terms of a shift from expression of loyalty to expression of living and evolving values. And loyalty is also one of our dirty words. I think it might be our next dirty word. So again, it's sort of shifting that idea of, you know, loyalty, which is generally sort of, I don't know, answering the question of like, what does loyalty mean? You know, it's transactional, it's rewards points, it's air miles. It's very much in that sort of e-commerce sort of transactional relationship to something that's about, as we've got here, expression of living and evolving values. So, you know, a bit more fundamental in terms of alignment. Telfar, I'm sure you guys are aware of Telfar, US-based fashion designer. It's pretty mad images. But equally, you know, he recognizes this, and he set up, this is about a year and a half ago now, but a beautiful way in terms of sort of not artificially challenging the models of auctions in terms of, which is traditionally, especially in luxury goods, based on fundamentals of scarcity in terms of price. And he basically just turned that on his head and very much set the price based on the actual number of different people buying it at that time, which made it accessible, made it affordable, and was incredibly well received and also incredibly well executed. So, you know, putting his community is hard because ultimately these products are expensive, but, you know, using technology in a really elegant and, you know, just an incredibly simple way. Moving on then, so it's moving from sort of benefactors of purpose to what we call sort of compass for impact. And what do we mean by that? There's a great example here. You might have seen it. It's called Softer. Softer is a community based out of Copenhagen. They very much specialize in championing women in tech. And they're called Softer because it's about sort of the softer side of, you know, technology, which is generally quite hard and impenetrable. They run a bunch of different sessions. They run in-person workshops. They've got an incredible website. You know, it is very sort of human and equally intentional in terms of its impact. You know, they are actually very much an offline sort of community in terms of bringing people together. They do one in London. I think they've just doing the next one in Copenhagen in the next week or so. But again, equally recognizing the role and the formats of how, you know, these different online, the importance of offline over online in terms of bringing your community together. And then the final one is about trend tribes to cultural stakeholders. And this is an example, a couple of years old now, but still amazing. It's called Kraus House. This very much came out of sort of the Web3 sort of crypto moment, where a bunch of guys got together, not guys, but, you know, humans, with a mission to buy a basketball team, which they've done. And, you know, you could call it crowdfunding, which I guess it's sort of a version of it, but this was very much using sort of Web3, sort of on-chain sort of tokens, which again, you can draw parallels back to real world, but fundamentally it was hugely successful and a great case study if you want to drop into them. You could put Pool Suite there, you could put C Club, there's a whole bunch in that sort of Web3 clique that very much followed a similar set of examples. Cool, so in summary, I've just mentioned, conscious of time, so I won't read these again, but it is sort of very much recognizing those shifts from the left side to the right side. So in terms of some ingredients, and this is the good stuff, you know, these these are they. Very much thinking about what each of these. Some you might dial up, some you might dial down. Always listen to community, make sure that things are transparent, stay flexible and adaptable. I mean, you guys can read them all. Some of these might talk to you more than others, but fundamentally, these are our sort of building blocks, however you want to define them, that every healthy community definitely needs. If you're in more of a brand world, in terms of sort of building a community with or on behalf of another partner, a whole bunch of or 6 very important questions here in terms of, just alignment of values, very much in terms of sort of integrity, making sure that impact is quantifiable, making sure it's truly mutually beneficial in terms of collaboration, and that there is significant or enough resource allocated, and also that it's meaningful in terms of what that co-creation is. So, we missed a slide. Oh, it's the fun slide. Okay, there's another slide that's going to come after this. I'll share it afterwards. But that slide, just I'll vocalize is a formula, which goes along the lines of I might write it in the chat so you can all see it, and then I'm actually going to see. Okay. I don't know if you can all see that in the chat, but we think about it in terms of a community as a call to adventure. So what's that intention? What's that purpose? What's that North Star? B is belonging. So creating that safe space, all of those human pieces that everybody feels part of. O is for ownership. And this isn't necessarily like shareholders ownership. This is sort of a sense of ownership, a feeling of ownership, that people are recognized, they're empowered to make decisions, to contribute in terms of recognizing their element. And then V is all about vibes, because community without vibes, which is why we love butter, by the way. Butter is full vibes, in terms of just, creating it, making it fun, and ultimately not feel like work. So that was a slide that was meant to be in here that isn't. And I'm conscious of time. I'm looking at Anna because I'm going to be finishing at 5:02. She's giving me nods, so that's good. I'm not actually going to let you guys, well, maybe we can. We've got a few minutes. But and this is a great question. It's a question I ask myself every day, if I'm honest. Thanks. What's one change that you have both the resources and capacity to implement today? Vito's thinking, he's stroking his chin, I can see. So let's give it a go. We've got a couple of minutes. Here's the question again. And, just not something like it's, this is the good stuff, right? Like resources and capacity that you can implement today. So have a moment, have a think. Anna's probably going to cut us off, but that's also fine. But fundamentally, yeah, straight in with the vibe. I mean, always more vibes. Definitely, whatever it is, more vibes. But that was certainly from, as I said, it's something that I continually, think about and challenge, in terms of, support, impact, nurturing, those things that, as a community builder, as a community operator, as a community supporter, what are those things that you can actually you can add that is realistic, isn't going to blow the budget, but actually will create some meaningful change. Anna, yes, it does. And I only just recently found out where it came from as well. Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey.
I was about to say, was that Hero's Journey? Because that's
Which I hadn't
cool.
made that connection. And
Yeah.
let's not go into Joseph Campbell kind of sidetrack with 4 minutes to go. But if you haven't, or if you don't know of him and of Hero's Journey, then that's definitely a one to add to your reading list. But I hadn't made that connection in terms of
That's so cool.
the origin of Call to Adventure, as a, it's better than purpose, right? Or even mission.
I think so. Yes.
And the
Like
call to
called.
mention, to be fair, we've got a whole extension to this workshop, which usually runs for 90 minutes, that digs into each of those components of that in terms of that equation. And call to venture is that it's just something that I keep going back to the pub, but you know, if you're in the pub and you're speaking to someone about it, or someone else, you know, you explain it to someone and then they speak to someone else about it, you know, it's like, what's that? What's that one sentence that's like, I don't even know what it is, but I'm in, right? It's kind of creating excitement and intrigue, and you know, cool, let's do it. Which goes sort of definitely a couple of notches up beyond, you know, this is my purpose, or you know, this is our mission. And you know, it's slightly alternative sort of framing of it. All right, that's it.
We're
Hope you
at
guys-
time. I just checked the website, Will, and the report is sold out, right? We cannot get our hands on it anymore.
If you, we've got a small like cut down version of it, but the full one, I'm afraid, is. I mean, I'm not afraid. You know, we had 33 different people, you know, contributed from it, and you know, we're only taking as an organization 20% of that, just so we're clear. So you know, it's for them, not for us. So yes, the full report is still paid, but there is a PDF cut down,
I think that's the one I have because I was like, I've seen this. I've
yeah,
spotted this a while back, I think when it was released. But this
yeah,
was cool stuff. Thank you so much. It overlaps
no problem at
so
all.
much with my philosophy of building community. This was very precious, Will. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in and joining. And I hope to see you in one of the future sessions. Take care, stay awesome, and build beautiful call to adventures with your communities. Take care.
Cool. Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.